So in the previous video, we started our challenge for the array list. And what we did was we implemented the contact class and also the mobile phone class, as you can see. In the mobile phone class, we've implemented the add for the add new contact. For updating a contact, we've also got the ability to actually return a contact. We need to change this a little bit because at the moment we've got two methods for finding contacts. They're returning integers, but of course we don't want to return integers back to the calling process. So we want to create another method that will expose publicly to allow other functions to other calling classes, I should say, to access the record that we've found. And the other thing we haven't implemented yet in the mobile phone class is the ability to remove a contact. So let's create the find contact first. And again, we've got two parameters here. We've got two methods, I should say. Find contact, one that's been obviously overridden. So I'm going to create a third one. And the sole purpose for the third one is really just going to be to return the data from another method. So it returns it as a string instead of returning it as an integer, if that makes sense. And look, there's different ways of doing it. We could actually set it up to return a Boolean if we wanted to. The main thing is we don't want to expose these private methods publicly because they're using the int, which is used for our array. So we don't want the classes that are accessing this to know anything about that. So I'm going to create another method, a public one, and I'm just going to call it, I'll give it a space here. And we'll call this one query contact. It's going to return a string, query contact, and it's going to accept a contact record, and we're going to put if, and we're going to pass on to the find contact record. So it's if find contact, if that is greater than or equal to 0, we're going to return contact.getName. Otherwise, we're going to return null. So all we've done here is we've been sent a contact record. If we're looking for that record, if the result of that, which essentially is going to be calling this method here, if that returns a number greater than or equal to 0, it means that it is on file. And if it is on file, we're going to return the contact name to really indicate to the calling method that yes, it is on file. Otherwise, we're going to return null, and that signifies that it wasn't on file and it doesn't exist. And you'll see that in use when we go into our main method from the main class shortly. So that's that one. And then lastly, we want to create a remove contact. I'm going to put that up there because it's close to the other methods, and it's going to be a public. I'm going to return a Boolean. It's going to be remove contact. Same thing, contact. What I can actually do here is call that code, just copy and paste it in this case, like so. So our first test for remove contact is obviously, is it on file? And if it's not on file, we're just going to return false, and we're going to put a message on the screen to say it wasn't found. But assuming that it was found, all we really need to do is put this.mycontacts.remove found position. And then we'll just print out a message to say contact.getName was deleted. And then we want to return true to say we were successful and we did actually manage to delete it. So that's our classes, our methods for the mobile phone class now. We should be good to go with that. So what it's time for now is to swing back over to our main class and our main method and actually do a test run to make sure it's all working as it should be. So to do that, we're going to go back here, so you can see, into the main method in the main class. And we need to implement a few things. We need a couple of fields. We need a scanner, firstly, so private, I should say. A private scanner, private static first, static scanner. Scanner is going to be the variable. And accept that import equals new scanner. It's going to be system.in, which we've done in quite a few videos now. The second thing we want is a mobile phone class, the one that we've just created. So mobile phone equals new mobile phone. And I'm just making up a random number. And that's the only reason that I added the field in the mobile phone class for number, is so that we can actually pass it as a parameter. Certainly optional, and we're not using it for any other purpose. So that's the basics. So the next thing we need to do is implement this menu so that we've got these various options: quit, the print list, add a new contact, update existing contact, and also remove contact. So let's start on that. So Boolean quit equals false. Then I'm going to have some code to start the phone. Print actions while not quit. So while they're still haven't selected that command, we're going to start our while. And what we'll do is we'll implement these other methods first. They're pretty simple methods. Start phone. Obviously a very, very simplistic representation of starting a phone, but if you were writing the code to actually develop this, you might have all sorts of other functions there. You might be initializing the memory and do all sorts of other things. I just wanted to sort of get your mind thinking about the possibilities of how you go about that if you were creating a class of this complexity. In this case, we're just going to print out a message to say starting phone. Next is our actions, static void print actions. And you remember that from the previous video, you've seen that in use. So we're going to go available actions, press, and we'll do something like 0. Just shut, oops, I put 9 there. 0, just shut down. And we'll put 1. Print contacts. This is another way, by the way, to avoid having to print out numerous print lines, just to put it all in the one line like this. Option 2 is going to be to update existing update an existing contact. 3, actually that should have been 4, because 3 should have been add. Add's going to be our first one. Sorry, I'll get this right in a minute. 2 should be add. So to add a new contact. I'll get there in a minute. Touch N. So 3 should have been to update. So that was correct. And the next one is 4. You can probably guess what that's going to be. To remove a contact. Remove an existing contact. And 5. Query if an existing contact exists. And number 6, the last one is going to be to print a list of available actions. Like so, and clean that up a bit. So that's just our big print, and then we'll just do another message. Choose your action. Like so, and that's our print action. So that's really just a menu of what the appropriate options are. So let's go back now. We've got print actions, they're both implemented. So let's start implementing, I should say, our while loop. So with our while loop, we need to now go through and add a case using a switch for each of those. But before we do that, of course, we need to print a message on the screen, but also then to accept the appropriate option that the user is specifying. So we're going to go back up here to our quit, while not quit. We're going to put a message in there, interaction. 6 to show available actions. We're putting that in there, of course, because this menu will be shown over and over, and you may actually miss it and the initial print actions that was printed before the loop started if you've actually scrolled that all off the screen. So it's good to have that there just to remind your user. So let's get an integer. So it's scanner.nextInt. And let's go to the next line as well. Clear the input stream. Okay, then a switch. I'm going to switch on the action. Starting from case 0. Case 0, option 0 was shut down, so we're just going to put something, we'll just put a message to that effect. Shutting down. Quit equals true, and then break. Case 1 was printing out a list of contacts, so 1 print contacts. I'm going to create a method for that and then break. We might actually go down and actually implement that method first before, just to avoid there being sort of lots of errors on the screen. And we'll do that, so what we'll do is we'll do that above the start phone because we'll be referring to that more. So it'll be private, static, void, print contacts. Now this does bring up an interesting question, and the question is, should we be implementing the print contacts by writing out all the code to iterate through, to go through all the list of ArrayList entries here, or should we be doing it in a mobile phone? So first I'm going to create the content here, and then we'll discuss that further. And we'll just put contact list. And you can probably guess what we're going to do. We'll start with something like 0 I less than my mobile phone, I should say. Mobile phone dot get. And what we should do is think about getting a getter to actually retrieve the array list. But this is what I'm getting at. So what we want to decide is whether we should be adding this functionality here. In other words, should we be going through the list and so forth? My argument would be that we wouldn't be doing it here. In actual fact, what we should be doing is implementing a print contacts function within the mobile phone class itself, like so. So it'd be something like mobile phone dot print contacts. So in other words, we'd take this code out and would go back and would implement print contacts, which is in the mobile phone class, or will be in there. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to add that down the bottom, and it's going to be public, public void print contacts. And it's going to be this dot my contacts dot size I plus plus. Then we're going to do something like I plus 1 plus get element I dot get name plus the phone number as well. This dot my contacts dot get I dot get phone number, like so. And that's literally it. So what we've done here is we've just navigated through the entire contents. Then we're actually retrieving, we know that it's a contact record, so we're retrieving the record. And because we've defined it up here as an array list of type contact, when we use the .get, then Java knows that this is automatically a contact class or contact object that's in the array list. Consequently, the get name and the get phone number work, the getters work, which are from the contact class itself, the getters that we've actually established for get name and get phone number. So that's, again, one of the beauties about using ArrayList and defining the type is that it makes it a lot easier to do this type of code. So what we've now done is we've implemented a simple print contacts function just to go through the list of array elements and to print them out. So you can see that by having to navigate using index positions and printing out numbers and so forth, this really shouldn't have been in this code here. We shouldn't have been implementing it in there because we don't want the class or the code that's calling the mobile phone code to know how the underlying array list works, or even that there's an array list in use. As far as we're concerned, we've just got a mechanism that we can add records to, we can update, search, etc. and print and remove as well, and that's all we need to know about it. So that's why we're implementing that in the mobile phone. So we could have actually just changed this. In fact, I might do that just to be a bit more simplistic. And go back up to our print, and we could just actually literally just replace that line in there altogether. And then actually delete this because we don't use that anymore. But I did actually want to start doing that just to show you that you should be thinking when you're creating methods, is this code that I'm creating, is it in the right place or not? It's very important to get that right and just to be thinking about that, because it can be very useful or extremely useful for you to figure that out and make sure that you're actually putting it in the right place. Okay, so moving on, we've done our print contacts. The next option was option 2 from memory, which is this one here, which is to add a new contact. So we need to add another case for that, case 2. And what we're going to do is I'm going to just add a method for each of these, and you'll see why shortly. So case 2, add new contact, break. Case 3, it's going to be update existing contact or update contact, break. Case 4, of course case 4 was remove, so it's going to be remove contact, break. Case 5, going to be query contact. See that on the screen? Query contact, break. And then of course case 6 was the print actions, so it's going to be print actions, break. So that's our switch and the various cases that we need to implement, or that we have implemented. Next we need to implement these methods, add, update, remove and query. So I'm going to do that just here. So starting out, the first one now we want to add is actually the add new contact. Now the reason we want to make this a separate method is, of course, we need to actually ask for the name and then actually call the code. So there's a few lines of code needed to actually get this all implemented. So we're going to put private static void add new contact. Print out enter new contact name. String name equals scanner.next line. So we're going to retrieve the contact name that we want to add, but we also need to add a phone number as well. So to do that, we're going to put enter phone number and string phone equals scanner dot next line. So we're going to the phone number as well. So we've now got the name and the phone number that we've read in from the keyboard. We need to create our new contact, and we're going to contact new contact equals contact. And now notice this code here, contact dot create contact name phone. Now you can see how we've used the reference to the contact class, but we haven't used an object. We haven't created a new instance. We've used that directly. So the capital C equates to the actual name in the class. And of course, the reason we can do that is because going back to the contact class, it's a static method. So that's the reason we want to use a static method there, because it's a convenience method. It's often known as a factory method as well. That's another definition for it. And it's just a simple way, so you can see here, we want to create a new contact record without having to create a new contact. I keep saying contract. Create a new contact class without necessarily having an instance or an object to call the method on. And that's what the static allows us to do, is in that line there. So therefore, we've got our contact item, which of course we need to pass on to the add new contact in the mobile phone class itself. So the last thing we now need to do is put if mobile phone dot add new contact. New contact. We're going to put new contact added, and it's going to be, we can actually put name, phone, keep it simple here, phone, else cannot add name already on file. So we're taking advantage of the Boolean return. If it's true, then this line of code is checking to see whether it's true or false. Were we successful in adding the contact, the new contact? If we were, we're just going to print out a message confirming what we've added. Otherwise, if that returned false, add new contact, it means that it found a record with that name already. If that's the case, we're going to print a message to say, cannot add, the name is already on file. So what I'm going to do is pause the video here, and we'll come back and we'll implement the remaining 3 classes and go ahead and actually run this. So we'll see you in that next video.